Welcome to the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. This is the show that shares information and inspiration to help you break free from self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and disempowering patterns, and break through to create the thriving, successful business you dream of and deserve. The show features interviews with entrepreneurs who've overcome amazing challenges to create success on their terms and experts who share insight and information to help you get past your blocks, move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity. The show is available in both video and audio formats on a variety of platforms, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, in the Google Play Store, on YouTube, and on my website at winnieanderson.com. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll share the show with others, and I hope you'll join my courageous community. You can do that by becoming a fan of the show on my site at winnieanderson.com/fans. When you do, you'll get episodes delivered right to your inbox along with information, tips, and resources to help you consistently move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity. You'll discover how to position and pre-sell yourself as the trusted advisor you are and ultimately to profit from your expertise, all while you build a business in alignment with your faith, beliefs, and values. As a listener of this show, you're likely a corporate escapee out on your own, building a solo professional practice, or you're currently in a corporate job and secretly plotting for the time you'll go over the wall. I know you dream of flexibility and freedom to do what you love most, that mission that's been put on your heart and focusing on doing the work that brings you the most joy. That's what today's guest wanted too. Lisa Cohen had escaped life in a high-powered law firm when she discovered her passion and amazing talent for photography. And then came the diagnosis that changed her life forever. The degenerative disease, multiple sclerosis. As she says, to be both struck with an illness and the possibility of not being able to continue the work I finally found that I loved was really a hard blow, to say the least. When I saw Lisa featured on Yahoo Lifestyle, I knew I had to have her on the show so she could share her journey and how she's helping women deal with the BS of MS, as she says. So listen in as Lisa shares how she dealt with her diagnosis, the need she recognized that was unaddressed by the support and advocacy groups out there, the problem she sees with support groups and why they weren't right for her, what she now recognizes as her mission, and how your true calling and audience lies somewhere connected to your wound. As always, listen all the way to the end where I'll share your cocktail exercise and action step for this episode. All right, so thank you so much for joining me, Lisa. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled.
You're welcome. You're welcome. When I saw the article about you on Yahoo, I think it was Yahoo Lifestyle, recently featured you, I knew that I had to have you on the show. I knew I wanted to learn more about you. So you've got this fabulous career and you've made a couple of direction changes, right? So
absolutely.
So I'm fascinated to hear this whole thing. I know that you're getting into coaching right now, and you've been a photographer. You've also been an attorney. So why don't you give us the little nutshell of how you got from attorney to photographer to coach?
Oh, yes. A couple of big transitions there.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up in the attorney situation. I call it a situation because I consider myself an escaped lawyer because that was not the situation for me. Basically, not out of, wow, this is what I really want to do. But basically, my mother said, well, you can be a doctor or you can be a lawyer. And I'm squeamish, so doctor was not happening. And I didn't really realize that I had other options. So, I graduated from undergrad, went straight to law school because I figured that's what I was supposed to do. And from there, I went right into the big New York downtown law firm because I figured that's what I was supposed to do. And I was there for a while, and I went, oh my goodness, this is not for me. This might be for somebody else, but this is not my thing. And I was able to pay off my student loans and see it. And then for the first time really in my life, I started to think about, well, what would I enjoy doing? What would actually showcase the talents that I have and allow me to use those? Because I wasn't able to use all of them at the law firm. And I kind of went full out whole hog into the whole creative thing because I've always been a creative type. I've been a musician, I've been an artist. And I thought, well, graphic design might be interesting. So I decided, okay, I'll take some courses we have Fashion Institute of Technology here. And a friend who was a graphic designer had gone there. So I thought, okay, I'll take some courses there to see what I like. And at the same time, I was used to working those marathon work weeks at my law firm. I said, well, I have to do something. I need a job. And it just so happened that there was an internship advertised at an independent record label right around the corner from school.
Okay.
So I applied for that, and they took me. So I'm working at this independent record label. And while I'm trying out courses at FIT, I took my first photography class, and boom, that was it. In love, the first time I saw something develop in the darkroom, and I knew that was going to be something I had to continue to do.
Okay.
And so on through the indie music business, I did radio and retail promo at a couple of indie labels, realized I was on the wrong side of things and I should be on the artist side rather than the label side. So then I transitioned to managing a couple rock bands and a singer-songwriter and helping them run their own indie labels. But meanwhile, I was using the photography to do some of the artist photos, and I was doing that as a hobby, basically, in my spare time. And eventually, I ended up doing more artistic photography, kind of just because for my own sake, and I really liked it, and I wanted to pursue it. And then I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and one of my first symptoms was impaired vision. So, yeah, great. I need to be able to see, and I'm having trouble seeing. I had actually gone on a photo trek to Morocco when I first lost my vision. So here I am in another country, and I can't really see out of one eye, and I'm supposed to be taking pictures at the same time. So that was, that was a nice conclusion of circumstance.
But you weren't completely blind, right?
I was not. It was more of I had blurred vision and a sensitivity. So if I were near any kind of light source, everything would go white.
Okay.
Like so bright that I couldn't really see. So I'd have to squint to be able to see so I could see what was right in the middle and not really what was around the edges. And what's really funny is several years later, I have a particular style of printing and the way I do my images for art photographs. And I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was drawn to, I eventually figured it out. I was looking at things and I was like, you know what? This is the way I used to see when I had optic neuritis and my vision was impaired. Things are a little bit too bright, and I tend to focus on what's in the middle, and I'll white out the entire background. So you see this one subject, and it's not too bright, not painful, but a little bit there. And it's that's how I used to see things. So it's funny how that ended up informing some of my artwork. Go figure.
Yeah, wow. So you have, how long have you been dealing with MS?
I was diagnosed in 2001, so 17 years now.
Okay. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. And educate us a little bit. I know that there are flare-ups and then it goes into a little bit of remission. Is that right? And then flare-ups and then remission?
Right. Well, that's the type I have, relapsing, remitting MS. And so with that, you have flare-ups and your symptoms can change day to day, hour to hour. So you're not necessarily sure what you're going to be faced with in a given day.
Okay.
But then there are also secondary progressive MS and primary progressive MS. And those are characterized, primary progressive, there are not flare-ups and remissions. It's kind of just steadily increasing disability. My understanding about secondary is there might be flare-ups, but then again, that also leads to increasing disability. With relapsing remitting, sometimes you get things back after a relapse, but often you're left with a little bit more disability each time. So it kind of is like stairs almost.
Okay. So, wow. Can you talk a little bit about once you had that diagnosis, how in the heck were you able to sustain any kind of career? How were you able to get work done? I mean, with not knowing what you were going to be experiencing on any given day.
Well, the thing is, at first, I didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay.
And I didn't know, am I going to be in a wheelchair tomorrow? Am I going to be in a wheelchair next week? And I basically stopped doing what I loved. I stopped the music business work because I thought, well, now I can't do that. And I got really scared. And one of my first just debilitating symptoms was actually fatigue. I was so wiped out, and it's so hard to describe that to someone who hasn't experienced it, but it's kind of that fatigue where you don't even know if you can get up.
Yeah.
And what I did, I ended up finding a job that worked around my fatigue. I actually found a job where I was doing full-time hours in 3 days. And then 4 days, I would basically go and pass out. But that was not a career type job. That was a survival type job, and I wanted to keep working, and that was the way I could do it.
Okay. Well, I can relate a little bit to that kind of fatigue. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I had it. I was in a car accident in 1999, and one of the symptoms that you deal with as you're in recovery, yes, is this incredible exhaustion. And you know, people would tell me, and I'm sure they say the same thing to you, you look fabulous, you look great, there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you. And meanwhile, I'm laying there going, I'm so tired, I don't know if I can go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then you do, and you need a nap afterwards. It's just the recovery process for me, and for most people who have a head injury, just so draining. Everything takes a heck of a lot more effort than the person who is looking at you can perceive that it requires of you.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a standard problem with MS, the "but you look so well" syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think any time that there is, whether you want to call it an illness, a disability, some kind of issue that you're dealing with that is invisible to other people, it just does not really compute to them. And if they don't know anyone who's dealt with this before, it just is a complete mystery. So then what led you then to follow your heart again? Was it just this, did you feel this internal pulling, or how did you know that you somehow had to do more than just, you know, this little survival kind of job, as you put it?
Right. Well, what's very interesting is I was doing my survival job at Bear Stearns. And as we all know, Bear Stearns was the first to collapse. And yeah, I was there that day watching the stock go like this.
God, yeah. Yeah.
And that was my first wake-up call, because I had kind of had some stirrings of, you know what, I don't know that I want to stay doing this job regardless of schedule, regardless of how I feel. Maybe I'd like to do something else. And I didn't follow that. And so I think the universe said, you know what, since you don't seem to get this, I'm going to help you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Isn't it that the universe is oh so helpful? And, you know, I tell people now, I don't know how many years, 19 years, I guess, post-accident. And I can honestly say that the accident was the greatest gift that I've ever been given. But let me tell you what, I would elect it in a different box. Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing, that you just finally get it, that but I needed this literal slap across the face, this knock in the head, to really understand that life is short, sister.
Exactly. And right after that was when I first started experiencing physical disability, meaning in terms of walking impairment.
Okay.
So right on the heels of that, so it was kind of this package of something big has to change right now.
Right.
And honestly, it wasn't until I started having the walking mobility impairment that I just said, okay, now is when I have to change the way I'm living and do something that's going to help other people and help the world in some kind of way. It was funny that the sense of urgency came upon me when I was trying to figure out how to manage this and didn't really know what was going to happen next, but that's when the thunderbolt really struck. And I decided, well, I'm going to focus on helping others. I'm not going to sit here and have a pity party by myself. And I said to myself, if this is going to happen, I'm going to make it mean something. It's not going to be for nothing.
Yeah, as tempting as it is sometimes to just sit on the sofa and have a couple of Oreos and boo-hoo a little bit, it really, okay, you have those moments, but then you just have to make sense of how you're going to live the rest of your life. I mean, yeah, you've got both two options, and there are plenty of people who choose the pity party, right? We've seen them. I'm sure you've seen your community. I've seen my community of people who just, they collapse, and I'll just sit here and I'll wait for the inevitable.
Right. And for some people, that's their path. And, sometimes you need to be in that for a while and then get out of it. And sometimes for some people, that's where they need to be. So I get it. And I don't use the term, in a disparaging way.
Right.
But I knew that I wanted to create an alternative to that for other people.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I experienced, one of the reasons that I kind of gave up right after I got diagnosed, was that I didn't have an example of what my options were.
Yes.
And I didn't have people saying to me, you know what, doesn't matter that you're diagnosed, you can still have an active kind of life or do something that resonates with who you are, who you want to be. And I had the experience of going to a support group before I was physically disabled. Actually, when I was newly diagnosed, and the leader of the group, she was very nice and she meant well, but I was talking about what I was working on, what I was doing. She leans over, she puts her hand on my leg, she says, "It's okay. You don't have to do all those things. You're sick." Wow. Yeah, never went back. I was like, that is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to several different women with MS, both across the United States and in other countries, who say that they don't even go to support groups because they feel worse after they go, because they feel like, well, there are a bunch of people sitting around being sick and wallowing in it, and that's not what they want to do. So with what I'm doing, I'm trying to create an alternative to that. It's for people who still want to live and they don't want to be on the sidelines or giving up just because they happen to have an illness.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And it certainly mirrors much of what I've seen as well. I actually am a double trauma survivor. I'm an adult survivor of child abuse. And so many of, when I first came to terms with that, which wasn't that long ago, and decided, okay, I finally have to really deal with residual trauma, I looked for help everywhere I could possibly find it. Just online, in books, I'll do anything, therapy, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I found that a lot of people were still in, the different stages of grief and going through it. And they were still in this one spot. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't want to tell my story over and over and over again with no sense of having it have an impact.
Right.
I don't mind telling my story if it's going to help you, or if it's something I'm going to continue to learn from it, but I don't want to wallow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay stuck in that spot.
I don't. So I totally can appreciate exactly what you're saying and what you're feeling. So let's talk then about your book, right? Because I know that you took this program, actually, full disclosure, we took the same course. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your book, because you decided that you were going to rock it and you weren't going to sit around and wallow. So let's talk about the book. Explain what your purpose was in writing that.
Right. Well, with the book, Overcome the BS of MS, I wanted to come up with, well, a short book. I call it a handbook because a lot of us with MS, we have extreme fatigue. I said, you cannot make this book over 100 pages because I don't want a woman with MS to get the book and then go, ugh, I can't, and what's it say? So I wanted to make it short enough and clear enough that they wouldn't be intimidated by it and they would read it. But what I did was I wrote from my own experience the type of things that helped me to manage my symptoms and get through life with it and keep going, because that's something that I wish somebody had given me, because I shouldn't say wasted, that's not the right term because that's a bit judgmental, but I feel like I lost about 8 years.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, well, what can I do? So I would like to spare other people that. So I basically laid out the 3 steps that I thought were the large overarching steps, and then giving some practical tips that helped me in the hopes that maybe they'll help other people, and also to bring them into the Rockstar Women with MS community where they can find support and services to help them. And even just meeting other women with MS, I find that that's a huge thing. I had met several women with MS who hadn't met another person ever with MS. So even just being able to talk to someone who understands what you're going through is a huge thing. So I wanted to start bringing a community together as well. And and providing an alternative for people who wanted to actively start trying to improve their quality of life. And people who don't feel like they fit. Several people say they don't feel like they fit in, for example, the MS Society. And I love the MS Society. I do a lot of work with them, and I volunteer with them. They provide great services. But a lot of people were saying just because of the pictures in the brochures and things, they feel like they don't fit. They go, well, they've got all these sick-looking people in there. I don't feel like it's me. Right. Or they have this wonderful publication, Momentum Magazine, that comes out. But a lot of women don't want to read just Momentum Magazine. They want to read Vogue. They want, they still want to live.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create an alternative that didn't feel like I'm going to sit here and be sick right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that about your book. I read it and I thought it was great. And I thought there's a lot there that touched me, and I don't have MS. And I loved that I'm still a whole person. I'm not just my illness. I'm not just my injury. I'm not just what happened to me. I'm a whole person, and I still want to, in your terms, be a rock star. I still want to look good. I still want to be able to. Okay, I have to walk with these sticks. Well, I want them to look good. I don't want to look like my grandmother. No offense to grandmothers, but really, and I love that. I love that whole vibe about the message that you have. And I've heard that from a lot of people who are, I'll just call them in segments, right? They have some kind of injury, illness, issue. There's something in their background that is part of their whole person, but they're afraid to be part of a group that is just going to be about the illness, injury, or issue.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And when I was working with Makeover Your MS, which is a nonprofit that my friend and I were running, it's basically the equivalent of, if you've heard of Look Good, Feel Better for cancer patients, because it actually does make a difference. And a lot of people might think makeup, oh, that's superficial and silly and vanity, blah, blah. But they've actually done studies that women's self-esteem affects their perception of their ability to manage a chronic illness.
I believe it.
So it's very important. And with all the pressures on women in society to have a certain appearance and all of that, there's that extra piece that men don't usually have to face. And so when you've got women and they can't walk well, so they can't wear their heels anymore. Or their hands aren't working and they don't feel well, so they think, oh, I can't ever do my makeup again. We're basically showing them how to do MS-friendly makeup and things with, large handles and stuff, so they didn't feel like, well, I can't do this because I can't hold a pencil, or I don't have 2 hours to do my makeup. No, do this in 5 minutes and use your hands and it's fine. What was great about that was that I was actually using my photography skills with that as well, because we had a big step and repeat, for all the big events. They have the thing that you stand in front of with the logos. So we had one, and we had an orange carpet because orange is the color of MS. So we had orange carpet shoots as opposed to red carpet shoots. And after everybody would get their makeup done, I would do their portraits. And that was when you really saw why these workshops were so good. I mean, they were happy to do their makeup, and we had professional artists come in and give everybody a makeover. But when they were getting their photos done, that's when everyone just started laughing and howling, and you'd hear women screaming across the room, oh, put some attitude in there, put your hip in, and they're howling and just having a great time. Nobody was sick right then. Nobody was thinking about that right then.
Yeah.
They were together. They were in community. They were having fun. And that's the thing that's often missing. And when I would see that, I always thought, this is great, but now we just send them home.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, knock yourselves out. So go live with this from day to day. That's when I decided I wanted to do something that would help people with the day to day, which is the purpose behind the book and the purpose behind what I'm doing right now.
Right.
So that I'm there with them in a sense, or helping them with tools, not just the makeup, that's one piece of it, but there's a whole lot more to being able to live with this thing every day.
Yeah, isolation will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really will. I just posted, I think, on my Facebook page a TED Talk or something that talks specifically about that. And yeah, it'll kill you. If nothing else, it can lead to depression. I mean, even an introvert like me needs to come into contact with other humans at some point. And yeah, it's depressing. And I think that as I'm listening to you and what you're creating, what I'm really hearing is a community.
Yes.
And I think you touched on something that is really profound. And it actually, I thought of it relating all the way back to you're going to law school even. With MS, you didn't see anybody else like you. Those women didn't see anybody else like them. Mm-hmm. Well, you couldn't figure out what to do and went to be an attorney because you couldn't, you didn't see anybody like you who... And who you were at that time, right? The creative that was inside. So I think that issue of creating a community, I think it's powerful and needed.
Yes, I think so. And it's very interesting because I have a pretty good sense of who my people are. And, I don't feel that it's my role to go grab people who've decided, well, I can't do anything, I'm going to give up, and I want to stay over in the pity party. It's like, fine, that's your area there. But my people are the people who've gone, all right, I'm done with that, or just haven't even fallen into that yet. And they're saying, how do I keep living? And part of the reason my title is good is because I know that's going to attract a certain type of person. And another type of person who's not in my tribe, they're not going for a title like that. Right. But, I think there's also some real truth to that idea of there are people who want an alternative to what they've been finding. One of the first things I did was I looked online everywhere to see, well, is anybody doing something like that? And I couldn't find anything. So I said, okay, we need this. And that's getting echoed. The people who are actually joining the group or sending me emails after they've gotten the book, they're like, oh, thank God you did this, because I received an email from a woman today who signed up. She said, I realize that we've got support groups, but she said those are about talking about your feelings, but I was wondering, is there anything that we could practically do? Because I had asked her point blank, I said, well, thanks for joining the group. We're glad to have you. Could you tell me what you think would be most helpful to you? What would you wish you had help with in trying to create a better quality of life with MS? And she said, wow, nobody's ever asked me that before. And the first thing she said was, well, the groups, I'm not finding that that's doing it for me, and I'd like some practical things that I can do. And I said, there you go. That's exactly my person right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. And how sad for her that no one had bothered to ask her until then. I mean, take a hint. Anybody who's running a group, that's got to be the first thing that you ask is, what can I do for you? And what's missing that I can possibly provide for you? So, so you're let's talk a little bit about this community. You're now moving into full-time coaching, basically. Is that correct? Or you're getting ready to ease into full-time coaching?
Right, because right now I'm working on my IPEC certification, which I should have in a couple of months. So I'm really excited about that because I wanted to learn how to do this the right way. And I felt, well, how can I be most helpful? And I was really happy to start my training to do that. And I do want to get to the point where I'm able to help as many people as possible, because I'm finding right now that my group, they're not in New York City where I am. They're everywhere else. They're all over the country. They're in other countries. We've got different time zones. So I'm trying to think of what's the most effective way that I can help, the greatest number of people.
Right.
So that's what I'm figuring out right now. Okay. But I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I'm really excited about being able to do this full time because it feels like the thing I was put here to do. Yeah.
Isn't it? And again, I would have rather have gotten that mission with a different path.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, it's the old hero's journey, right? You have to walk this path full, through, I call it the forest of fear and the bridge of fear. And you have to cross those things in order to really be able to serve the community that only you can serve. And it means you have to have that, badge of honor of being like them.
Right. And I thought about that and I said to myself, well, if I weren't disabled, I don't know that I could serve in the same way, because as awful as it sounds, there's a measure of credibility that comes with that, because people won't look at me and say, well, how would you know? You can walk just fine. You don't have anything wrong with you. How could you possibly know how hard it is to have this illness?
Yeah, and that's a really powerful statement too. I'm making notes as you're talking, because it seems that for a lot of us, and I'm not going to judge or project, for a lot of us though, it seems that our mission is in our wound. And I know for people who don't have quite as big a wound or quite as powerful a wound as a disease or an injury or abuse or something like that, I know they want to play that down, right? They want to play the wound down because, we feel like we have to present this image of perfection that we've got it all together. But in reality, no, you don't. People want to know that you struggled as well, that you are struggling, and that you're dealing with it, that you're either headed out or you're finding a solution, and that it's going to be okay. I think that's really a powerful part of the message.
Exactly.
That's what I got anyway from reading your book. And
well, it's very true, because it's ongoing for me. Yeah. Because I try to emphasize this is not a one and done thing.
Right.
I've figured out certain tools that help, but maybe I'm hit with a symptom tomorrow that I haven't experienced before. So then I have to work on, managing that end. But at least I feel now that I have the experience of having had to do this many times already. So I feel that I can handle it better. It might suck at the time, but I feel like I can do it, as opposed to someone who hasn't had to deal with it before. They haven't had any help, or they don't know what to do next. So that's the thing, that people know that I'm still going through this too, because I'm still having relapses. As long as the MS is here, I'm still going to have symptoms and things are going to cycle and I'm going to have ups and downs, and it's just kind of a way to keep going in spite of.
When you were first diagnosed and as you continued to deal with it early on, did you go through any point where, you faced those 7 stages of grief or however many there are? Did you find yourself at a low point at any point in here, or do you automatically have that kind of determination that got the diagnosis and screw this, I'm not going to succumb to it, I'm going to keep moving? Or did you have to work your way through it, Lisa?
Well, the truth of the matter is that given the types of autoimmune conditions I could have had that were not MS,
yeah,
and that I did not have primary progressive MS, I felt that I had dodged a bullet. I felt that that was the least of the evils, because my mother had had scleroderma, which she died from very quickly, actually. So I kind of felt, I'm not going to die. Great. And that seems a little bit warped, but that's where it was. Now, I was struggling, and, there are definitely losses, no question about it. But I don't think I've gone through those 7 stages, because for some reason the whole time, even though I've mourned some losses, but this entire time, I guess I've just felt blessed that it wasn't worse. Yeah. Like, I felt blessed that I wasn't going to die. I felt blessed that it wasn't primary progressive, and whatever stages I'm in have not been as bad as they could have been. So it's always been tempered by that.
Yeah. I think that's incredibly powerful as well. And I think that it's important for all of us to consider that, because there's plenty of things that could be worse. And now I really believe that you play the hand you're dealt. So, all right, this might be a sucky hand, but I'm going to play it as best as I possibly can.
Right.
Do you have any piece of advice, any single piece of advice that you could give a professional woman, a businesswoman who is suddenly facing a big diagnosis?
Well, I think what's really important is to have a belief in options. Either that they're out there, even though you can't see them yet, or that you can create them, even though you don't see them and can't imagine how you can do it.
Right.
Because the truth of the matter is that I have, in several instances, ended up learning about options that I didn't know that I had before, or even making some happen. Things that shouldn't have happened can happen. And I feel that if you can hold on to that, it's a huge help in everything, whether it's directly related to your illness and treatment for your illness, or just in terms of your life in general and what you are going to be able to do next.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great advice. So you talked about your coaching, your community. Tell everybody where they can go to learn more about you, to get your book, to find out more about what you're doing.
They can go to rockstarwomenwithms, all one word, .com. Okay. And there they can get a free copy of my book. And they can enjoy some of the free resources I have up there that might be helpful. Okay. And they can read my blog, and they can learn a little bit more about me as well.
Awesome. And certainly refer anybody that they know to your site as well. That's fantastic.
Exactly. And if they want to like the Facebook page, they can go to facebook.com/rockstarwomenwithms, and they can follow on Facebook.
Fantastic. And of course, we'll have links to all those locations right in the show notes. So if you're driving, you don't have to worry about remembering those URLs. We'll have everything for you. Lisa, it's been fantastic to talk to you. We can go on for hours.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well. And like I said, we'll have everything in the show notes so you can connect with Lisa. So thanks again. All right, I hope you found that interesting and helpful. Lisa is an incredibly inspirational person, and talking with her was so much fun. If you like this episode, please share it with your connections. Please leave a great review for it on the platform where you consumed it, and be sure to subscribe either on that platform like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, or you can subscribe to the video version on YouTube. But when you subscribe at my website, winnieanderson.com/fans, you'll receive episodes emailed to you each week along with information, tips, and resources to help you come out of hiding, position and pre-sell yourself as the trusted advisor you are so you can profit from your expertise. All right, so your cocktail exercise, otherwise known as a reflection exercise. No alcohol needs to be involved. Don't drink and drive. Don't overindulge. All right, so, each of us has something that we could use to hold us back. I have a brain injury and 50 years of emotional abuse. Lisa has a debilitating disease. I know other entrepreneurs with depression, chronic fatigue, diabetes, cancer, you name it. You've got something too. And what you really have is a choice. You can let that label that you have on you win, or you can work with it and move past it. It's your choice. It's only an obstacle if you let it be. So your reflection exercise is to think about what you're doing to move forward in spite of your issues. And if the answer is nothing, how does that make you feel? You were put here for a reason. And if you believe part of that reason is to serve others by being self-employed, then you have to ask yourself if you're really fulfilling your mission and living to your true potential. All right, so your action step. As usual, there's more than one action to take, but anyway, the first is to start. Whatever it is you're dreaming about, start. Take one single action. Don't get sucked into thinking, oh, I'll wait until tomorrow, or I'll wait till next week. I'll wait until it stops raining. I feel better, because tomorrow might never come. Tomorrow you might get horrible news. Tomorrow you might have a new battle to face. So start now. Build momentum. Don't stop. You must take action every day to move towards achieving your goal. It doesn't have to be massive action, but it needs to be the best you can do in that moment. Every time you don't act, the disease, your abuser, the negative people around you, the trauma you've experienced, that's what wins and keeps on winning. You've got a job to do, a story to tell, people to help. So get cracking. And if you want and are ready to get help on your journey of becoming or being a courageous entrepreneur, maybe you'd like help to stay focused on completing your big projects, coming out of hiding, taking your business to the next level of success, and mastering your demons, then consider joining the Courageous Entrepreneur Club. The club is made of small groups of no more than 10 people who are solo professionals and entrepreneurs who receive coaching, accountability, and support from me and from each other as they move forward towards achieving their goals that they would otherwise lose focus on. Group enrollment happens at specific times during the month. If you want to learn more, go to winnieanderson.com/join the club. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. Remember, you deserve all the success you dream of.